Jocelyn Pepperell, please. Good morning and welcome.
Tēnā koutou.
Now, which is which? Who is who?
Kia ora, I'm Jocelyn Pepperell.
Hello, Jocelyn.
Caroline.
Hello, Caroline. Well, you've sort of seen the process. We've got about 10 minutes. You can assume that members have read the written submission that you've made. Over to you, how we use the 10 minutes. More of it you spend talking to us, the less we have to question you.
Kia ora.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this very important piece of legislation for Greater Christchurch's future. We submitted on the bill because we're vitally interested in how the recovery of Greater Christchurch is progressing. We acknowledge the end of the ChCh Act and the recovery work achieved under that legislation. We are supportive of the general move toward locally led recovery and local leadership in this bill, and are appreciative of the specific inclusion of New Brighton and the hard-hit eastern suburbs in the first regeneration plans. We believe that after 5 years of direction by a Crown agency, namely Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority, it's time to return power to our locally elected bodies, particularly to the Christchurch City Council. In saying that, we do recognise that due to the substantial investment the Crown has made to the rebuild of Greater Christchurch, there will be need for some negotiation as to where that investment is spent. We believe the relationship must be more collaborative, with the locally elected council working in partnership with Te Runanga o Ngāi Tahu and Crown agencies. The Crown should not have the right of veto over projects. The future shape of Christchurch must be driven by the people of Christchurch through their locally elected councillors. As stated in our written submission, we are concerned about certain provisions and language in this proposed Act. We remain concerned that this bill continues to override the usual Resource Management Act planning processes. We also submit that it should be consistent with the purpose and principles of the Local Government Act, particularly with respect to the openness, transparency and accountability required, and the need to take a sustainable development approach. As this bill is written currently, we feel it gives too much power to government ministers over local councils, in particular to ministers of Transport, Land, Information and Environment, to suspend, revoke RMA documents, council plans, regional land transport plans and plans or policies under the Local Government Act. While this may be done after public consultation and consultation with strategic partners, we are concerned that such consultation will not be done in a timely manner and excludes a number of citizens and lacking in due process or the timescale which allows for good and considered local input. We are wary of the power given to the chief executives of relevant government departments to dispose of land, to restrict access to areas and buildings, erect temporary buildings and undertake works on private and public land, particularly in regard to what may happen to the residential red zone land. Any powers under this new Act should be exercised only at the request and for the benefit of local authorities and the communities they serve. Council should have the ability to ask relevant ministers to exercise powers on their behalf, for example, some aspect of a regeneration plan. We understand that experiences from other cities and countries recovering from natural disasters clearly demonstrate that locally led transformative renewal ensures creative opportunities arise from disaster. The people own their recovery. This requires transparent, democratic partnerships between central and local government, and that's equitable partnerships, and including business and local communities. Our concern is that while Section 3C of the bill states enabling community participation in the planning of the regeneration of Greater Christchurch, community participation is not entrenched in the bill. The bill must provide for a more inclusive framework of partnership and collaboration. We request, therefore, the deletion of the provisions which establish a Crown company to promote and undertake anchor projects. We've not been impressed with the ability or transparency of the Central City Development Unit and fear that the new Crown company would just be as lacking in transparency and ability to facilitate the development of key projects. Our concern has grown since the release of the Treasury document, which was widely critical of the ability of the Crown to deliver on its proposed anchor projects. At least 2 of these projects, the Convention Centre and Elite Sports Stadium, can be delayed for some considerable time in favour of ensuring key infrastructure is repaired or suburban centres revitalised. Secondly, that provision of coercive powers that enable unilateral central government intervention be removed from the wording of this Act. The wording of the Act should align with existing legislation such as the Local Government Act, rather than continue to use the extraordinary powers of the ChCh Act. Therefore, full control of the city should be returned to Christchurch City Council earlier than proposed in the bill. We suggest by December 2018 rather than 2021. We do recognise that the Crown is investing heavily in the recovery of Christchurch, but the final sign-off of projects that aim to benefit our city should lie with our elected councils rather than relevant ministers. Thirdly, that full democratic processes are restored with respect to our ability to submit on regeneration plans. There should be public hearings held in a timely manner so that we can have transparency about how decisions are being made. Finally, and most important to us, we note that there's little or no reference to the natural environment in the bill. In clause 3, the bill's 5 key purposes focus on process, planning, disposal of red zone land, etc. There is no reference to the regeneration or restoration of the ecological integrity of our natural environment. It does, however, provide for the ability of the Chief Executive of LINZ to dispose of land in residential red zone without requiring public input. This is untenable where there remains strong public interest in the future of this land, particularly by those who once lived there. The Owen Otakaro Network has over time run a series of workshops in order to gather a wide range of citizen ideas for the residential red zone, and a number of these deserve to be supported and implemented. Their vision to promote the future use of Otakaro Avon River and the surrounding red zone lands as an ecological and recreational reserve for the community is one to be applauded and should be recognised in this regeneration legislation. This disaster has provided Christchurch with a unique chance to rethink our relationship with nature. By building ecological resilience and regeneration into our city's future, we could create areas that would attract tourists. My German friend who was visiting recently said that she'd come back for a regenerated Avon area. It would attract recreationists, study groups, all contributing to economic regeneration. We submit that clause 3 should include a 6th purpose, such as facilitating the establishment and management of Avon Otakaro River Park for the enhancement of the ecological integrity of water quality, biodiversity and for public recreation and cultural use. Land Information New Zealand should also be instructed to make decisions about the Avon River residential zone in consultation with the public of Christchurch. They should aim to maximise the scientific, educational and ecological outcomes with respect to the use of the land.
I'm pretty much doing a summary. The structure in place since the earthquakes has disempowered the citizens of Christchurch. This has damaged community spirit, had a negative impact on the mental health of the populace and been fundamentally undemocratic. This top-down decision-making has led to stalled white elephant projects and a city with little sign of progress beyond the basic infrastructure. The meaningful recovery that has taken place in Christchurch so far, and pretty much all its vitality, has been led by individuals, community groups and small business owners. The central government-controlled model has failed Christchurch. We do not want a minister to be able to suspend, amend or revoke RMA documents, council plans or other documents. We do not want the entity that regenerates Christchurch to be jointly controlled by the Crown and Council. We want decision-making power returned to Christchurch City Council with a process in place to acknowledge the strategic partnership role of Ngāi Tahu. We want democracy through our locally elected representatives back, and we want it now. Thank you for the opportunity to submit on this important piece of legislation.
Thank you very much. We've used almost all of the 10 minutes, but members have a number of quick questions, so I'm going to go to Paul, Clayton and Eugenie, but they need to be very quick and quick answers, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your submission. Were you here for Sir Mark Solomon's presentation from Ngāi Tahu, and taking on board your point about final decision-making powers, would you agree with him that collaborative between the Crown, who's investing billions, the Council and Ngāi Tahu is important?
I think Ngāi Tahu has a very important role to play in the future of the city. They've been waiting to have that role for some time. So in terms of its partnership with the city and other local government agencies, I fully applaud that, as it should be.
Clayton.
Do you have an opinion on the level of power the Minister has within the legislation?
I have a very clear opinion. I think it's way too high. We have a local democratically elected representative group here. It is the Christchurch City Council. I believe that is what should be driving the process. We're 5 years on. The people need to take back this process.
Thank you. Eugenie.
Justin, good morning. Caroline, good morning. Justin, you're a member of the Community Forum. You want community partnership to be more entrenched in the bill. What are the additional measures that you get under the Council having leadership rather than central government in terms of community participation?
I think you've got the opportunity of bringing in a number of people from a wide cross-section of Christchurch. The Community Forum, whilst it has a wide representation from across Christchurch, it is there specifically to advise the minister. It is not. It's not a two-way process. It's not particularly effective in that way.
Okay, thanks.
Jocelyn, Carolyn, thank you both very much for taking time to prepare both a written submission and to spend time with us this morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yes. If may we have a copy of the notes that you were speaking from? It's useful. Thank you. I'd now like to call to the